the next thing that we've got is obviously last week it was confirmed that James Gunn is going to be the creative lead of DC for Warner Brothers going forward.
Yep.
So I thought it could be quite cool for us to discuss what a DCEU under James Gunn might look like, what we think he can do very well versus what we're more concerned about potentially.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's inherited it in a shit state.
Yeah.
Just because no one really knows what's going on.
Definitely a fixer-upper.
So I'm going to go off the premise that when The Flash comes out, it's a soft reboot, so he can keep anything he wants and get rid of anything he wants, and there's not really anything to question.
Agreed.
So I think we can be pretty confident that anything with wacky characters will be done very well.
Yeah, and he'll probably cover himself.
Yeah, the lesser known the character, the better James Gunn handles them. Also, fun fact for some of you out there who might not know, James Gunn has directed some of my favourite films. He's given us the Guardians of the Galaxy films. He's given us the Suicide Squad film, which was good. And he's also given us the absolutely goated Scooby-Doo films from the early 2000s.
I didn't actually know he did them.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did both of them. James Gunn.
That's a
Let me just double check that.
That is a throwback and a half.
Scooby-Doo. Was it the first one or the second one he did? I think it was both. Oh, why is that not giving me who directed Scooby-Doo? Oh, wait, he wrote the Scooby-Doo films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it appears.
Still.
But still, you get my point. He's a goat who just knows what he's doing. My concern more comes in a twofold way. And these aren't concerns that I necessarily hold in the sense of genuine concerns. I think they're more concerns for how films will be received, if that makes sense. So, since the MCU started all the way back in 2008, and then you had the Nolan trilogy and stuff like that, there's been this kind of obsession with realism. And like gritty and dark, and like these words get thrown out all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, myself included to an extent, kind of want them to go and just make goofy. I don't mean goofy in the sense of just stupid, but like films that feel like comic books. And comic books are funny. They have quirky, silly, weird moments. They just do.
Yeah, they do.
And I think James Gunn can do them films very well. In fact, I know he can. I don't think a lot of people in the mass market are ready to have a Batman film where he's a bit goofier. Despite the fact that it can absolutely work.
I very much could.
And I think with diehard fans, they'd be like, fuck yes. But more casual people who have the money, and I'm not saying that diehard fans are poor, I'm saying that there's more casuals.
Yeah.
They just assume Batman has to be super dark all the time.
Yeah, I think...
I mean, they're even kind of like pushing for like a dark, gritty Superman, for fuck's sake. It's like, no, Superman's supposed to be like a beacon of hope.
I think... So here's my prediction with the whole... How James Gunn's DCEU. I think... And we talked about it last week, but I do think he's going to bring in... Similar to what Kevin's now doing, where he has set directors who get... He knows, like Kevin knows which directors are good for what project, sort of thing. James Gunn is going to find that for DC. And I think you're right. For the goofy stuff, like he'll take head of it on those ones because he really will nail them. And the like lesser known characters. And then I think he'll find someone who he knows he can trust to do a good superhero film and works well with like has a good working relationship with James Gunn so that they stay aligned on the overall picture. I kind of briefly touched on it. I wouldn't like one of my. I know we've talked about this with when the Batman came out earlier this year. That it could quite easily just stay its own separate like Batman universe. But I wouldn't be against that being brought into the loop of the DCEU if they did it. If they slotted it in right, that is.
I get that. I'm not sure James Gunn can make work a universe that has a Batman that dark.
Yeah, that's my like slight.
Because while obviously characters tonally can be different, they've still got to seem like they'd exist in the same fucking world.
Well, yeah, that you've got to. Yeah, we'd essentially like. Does that Gotham that we've seen in visual style and everything, is that possible for James Gunn to pull that in? That is where the like real question is, and I agree. It's a difficult thing whether he actually would.
And here's the thing: in like just the Batman trilogy, for instance, in this DCEU, it wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't notice it. The problem would be in the crossover films.
Yeah, no,
you'd find yourself looking at Robert Pattinson's Batman, going, "You look odd and different, and I don't know why." And it's because tonally, it would look like someone's just been taken out of a completely different genre, and that's my concern. I do, as much as I love a lot of the casting, a lot of the stories that have been built, and a lot of the actors and everything. Everything kind of almost needs to go in the bin.
What for on Batman's side?
Everything.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of work from there.
Yeah, I essentially think what James Gunn needs to do is, like we said, Flashpoint, literally wipe everything off the board, and then go.
Do I desperately want to keep this thing?
Well,
yes. Okay, that can stay.
I think what he needs to do is start with nothing. No pre-thing of like, we're going to have these characters, we're going to like, what? And actually go, what is the story arc that we want to tell across all of these films, however loose we come up with this? And then you go, okay, what characters do we need for that? Like, build them out. It's like, okay, well, we've had Superman before. Do we want to use previous Superman? Henry Cavill, which obviously it seems they are going to be using Henry Cavill going forward.
And this is the problem. A big announcement like Henry Cavill coming back as Superman, James Gunn can't throw him in the bin. He can't.
I think that's part of James Gunn's decisions.
I really fucking hope it was.
I think it was. I think one of the things is like, they've obviously, there's got to have been some discussion of when they were trying to figure out who to put into this position. And I bet it was like a case of, right, James, if we gave you the reins, what would that maybe look like? And he probably went, well, I
want Henry back.
Here's like a rough thing. And it all kind of starts with, I want Henry Cavill back as Superman. And then I do think that's part of his decision. And that'll be
I really hope that is the case. Because if he's the one who was like, I want Henry back, then already I'm a little bit more comfortable. Because it means the universe isn't in as bad a state for him to take over as it currently seems, because it means he's already had a little bit of influence.
I think I genuinely believe that'll be one of his first things that he's pushed for.
I view it in quite simply. They can't scrap everything.
No.
So you kind of look at it and go, okay, what do we keep? The easiest one to keep is Black Adam.
Agreed.
And I think it is the best one to keep.
Agreed.
Because just because Henry Cavill's still Superman doesn't mean Man of Steel has to be canon. Superman just looks like that. Cool, that's fine. But the JSA is full of weird, wacky, zany characters, which I think James Gunn can make very fun for the audience, just like he did with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And JSA came before the JLA, so they can just go, the Justice League doesn't exist, give James Gunn 5 or 6 years working with the JSA, and then when he's got stuff in the places he wants to get stuff, let him have the big boys. Let him have Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern. Once he can like build the universe that is ready for them.
I'm on the same page. I think, especially because obviously with the post-credit scene of Black Adam, it's the easiest new starting point in a sense. Because like we both talked about last week, Black Adam actually was surprisingly done well, like above our expectations. As you say, with the JSA, like it leans into those wackier characters. We have the whole fact that we have what's she called, Amanda Waller, leans into that thing of the Suicide Squad connection and that ability that she's gonna have probably just a collection of wacky characters that we can just pull at any point. So I think it really does make sense that Black Adam will be in this starting point. Superman, obviously, Henry Cavill.
I also think his Suicide Squad film will still be in canon as well.
Yeah, I think it will, because it helps set up or keep that link of Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
I think we haven't seen Aquaman 2 yet, so depending on Aquaman 2, depends whether those films stay as canon. But it wouldn't surprise me, because I still think it is one of the best castings for Aquaman, is they will keep Jason Momoa as Aquaman. As long as Jason Momoa still wants to do it, that is.
Oh, sorry, are we not announcing that you've taken over as Aquaman?
I'm not Aquaman. Remember, I'm playing Hercules in the MCU. So I think as long as Jason Momoa wants to still do it, which I think he really does enjoy that character, so I'd be surprised if he didn't.
He does seem to enjoy the role.
I mean,
I guess it depends if him and James Gunn have had a conversation and they're
yeah, if they align on things. So I think that's a potential to still be the same. I'm kind of with you with the I love the Batman that we got this year.
I'm more than happy for Matt Reeves to be allowed to do his trilogy completely over as like what we were supposed to get, which was the Black Label film.
Well, here's my thought is, so Matt Reeves has kind of been given first touch on Batman universe stuff. That doesn't mean that every Batman thing he does has to be in that Batman universe it started.
Not at all.
So James Gunn might still, like, there's a possibility, and I think this actually would be a great way to get, because Matt Reeves has a great love for the Batman side of things. I think it'd be smart if James Gunn brought him on to help envision his Batman and help with building out those characters. In like, as long as they are very visually style different, I don't think it's that confusing for a viewer to be like, oh, that's the Batman of this trilogy, Detective Batman. This is DCEU Batman. And they can very easily both... And like, maybe the DCEU Batman comes down the line after Matt Reeves' like own trilogy is done. So there is less confusion. But I would be surprised if James Gunn doesn't try and bring Matt Reeves on to help with that.
Here's the thing. While films are obviously a very different market to comic book consumers, people who consume comic books aren't going to be thrown off by whatever James Gunn does, because, as we know, shit just changes on a dime all the time, and you've got to work out what still is and isn't canon. The big issue for James Gunn is going to be getting them very casual people, and again, I don't mean that in like a rude way towards people who are casual. It's fine to just enjoy the films. His real difficulty is going to be making it easy for them to know what they do and don't care about. Because the last thing he needs is a bunch of idiots on TikTok and that going, but this doesn't make any sense. Because what that does is it'll then get the people who understand that it's a different universe all riled up in their comments going, "You're a fucking idiot," and then it just creates this idea that the community is super toxic and people don't want to engage with it at all.
He needs to be smart about sprinkling in those well-known characters to keep the casual fans happy and like, oh, this is a cool world, but not get too tied into just the Wonder Woman, Flash, Superman, Batman. Like, get stuck in those core ones again, just them, and you're just gonna have a stale world. Look at how many of the OG like Avenger characters, really, and towards Infinity War and all that and Endgame, a lot of those characters weren't like the big mainstream comic book characters. Like they were.
Iron Man was not a big character.
Yeah,
he just wasn't.
But like
the misconception that Iron Man's always been like the head of Marvel Comics is hilarious.
Well, it's
knowing let me spit some facts right now.
Go on.
Because of the MCU, people view Marvel's big three as Cap, Thor, and Iron Man.
Yeah.
Marvel's big three is Wolverine, Hulk, and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's it. Them three right there. They are the holy trinity for Marvel. Not Cap, not Thor, not Iron Man.
I actually think people would, from the films, would say it's Iron Man, Cap, and Spider-Man, because we've had a lot of Spider-Man films. I know they're not.
I still don't think they'd consider them as
the main three.
The holy trinity.
Fair. But yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's like that, DC needs to find that though. Find what might not isn't the comic book trinity, but the characters that are from comic book side, which James Gunn knows that on a big screen is the right viewer appeal to get people on board with that character.
I know what I'd cast my vote for. Flash, Green Lantern, Cyborg. Gimme.
Yeah. I think I'd love to see them bring Green Lantern back. And done properly.
We'll get onto that in a minute because we do have some good news on that front. But the Flash and Green Lantern are Bezzy mates. Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, that is. And Cyborg being a younger character who's only like recently in the comics joined the JLA, and is also a very unique character. I think them three could be very good building blocks because it also covers Earth-based threats, space-based threats, and then someone dealing with their own personal shit, which I think Flash gives you that kind of Iron Man Earth-based. Thor is that off-world shit like Green Lantern. And then Cap is a man out of time dealing with, like, trying to adjust to his new life, just like Cyborg is. I'm not saying that DC needs to copy the MCU before people get angry at me, but them three different stories have you covered on all bases so that someone has someone to relate to.
Yeah, and if they still have Henry Cavill as Superman, like, you've still got that very standard DC Superman's there.
Yeah.
So I agree. That's good. That would be a good kind of starting block to build around.
I'm very excited to see what he does. I do have some healthy concern.
Well, yeah, it's like DC's in a state. We don't know what you've got to pull away before you can build, and you don't know what's going to come from all that. Like, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be more of a shell before it starts getting better.
You don't paint your walls without stripping off the wallpaper.
No. So